Welcome back to the deep dive. We are doing something a little bit different today. Usually when we talk about medical topics and especially eye care, we get really focused on the hardware.
Right, the hardware.
Yeah, we talk about the lasers, the injections, the microscopic scanners. It is all very high tech, very sci-fi.
It is.
And it all happens in that dark room at the ophthalmologist's office.
Yeah, it's the needles and lasers approach.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, that stuff is miraculous. It saves sight every single day.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's incredible. But today, we are zooming out, like way out.
Mm-hmm.
We are stepping away from the eyeball itself, and we're going to look at the machine that powers it, the chassis, the engine. Because the stack of sources we have today, and this is a really hefty stack, let me tell you.
It's massive.
It makes a pretty provocative claim. It basically argues that you can have the world's best mechanic working on your headlights, but if the engine block is overheating and the transmission is shot, those headlights are going to keep flickering.
No matter how many times you change the bulb.
Exactly.
That is just a perfect analogy. The core theme here is systemic health and the body connection. And honestly, this is the missing link for so many patients.
It's a missing link.
Yeah, because the premise is that treating diabetic retinopathy, or DR, isn't just about managing the eye.
Right.
It is about managing the biology that supports the eye.
Yeah.
If you ignore the systemic health, the blood chemistry, the hydraulic pressure, the oxygenation at night.
The things happening everywhere else.
Exactly. If you ignore all of that, the treatments you get in the clinic have to work twice as hard to get half the result.
And efficiency is the name of the game here, because nobody wants to get a shot in the eye more often than strictly necessary.
Definitely not.
So we've got this category 4 source material, and it breaks down what they call the big 3 pillars: sugar, pressure, and sight.
Mm-hmm.
But before you roll your eyes at home and say, I know, eat kale and run on the treadmill, just pause, because the nuance in here is wild.
There are some really massive counterintuitive points in this data. Things that actually go against what you might think is just common sense healthy behavior.
Exactly. I mean, the hook that got me right away was this concept of a paradox.
Right.
We are going to talk about why improving your health too quickly, like going from zero to hero in the gym and the kitchen, might actually hurt your vision in the short term.
It's called early worsening, and it is a fascinating physiological trap.
It really is. And then there are the danger zones. We are going to talk about the gym, specifically why your bench press technique might be blowing out your blood vessels.
Mm-hmm.
And the bedroom where you're snoring might literally be undoing all the good work your doctor is doing.
Because it turns out the eye is incredibly sensitive to physics, to pressure differentials and oxygen starvation in ways we just don't usually think about.
So the mission today is to uncover these hidden triggers. We want to understand the why behind the advice. So you aren't just, following orders, but you're actually engineering your body to protect your sight.
We want to move beyond the simple metrics and really understand the engine.
Let's pop the hood. Part 1, the blood sugar nuance. Now, everyone listening knows that sugar is the bad guy in the diabetes story. That is day one stuff.
Sure.
But the sources here go way deeper than just high sugar is bad. This section is literally titled, "It's Not Just the Number."
Right. Because the number, which is usually the HbA1c, is just a surface-level metric.
It's the tip of the iceberg.
Exactly. It tells you the what, but it completely misses the how.
Let's establish the baseline first, though. In this literature, when they talk about stopping retinopathy from progressing, what is the target? What is the speed limit we are actually trying to hit here?
Well, the consensus across the major studies, like the DCCT and the UKPDS trials, is that an HbA1c target below 7.0% is the magic line.
7.0.
Yeah. If you can keep it below 7.0%, the risk of retinopathy progressing drops precipitously. That is the standard safety zone.
Okay, 7.0%. That is the goal. But here is where this deep dive really starts, because the sources introduce this concept of the speed trap. And I gotta say, my jaw hit the floor when I read this part.
It's one of the most dangerous misconceptions in diabetes management, honestly.
Walk me through this. Let's say I am a patient.
Okay.
I have been ignoring my health for years. I go to the doctor, and my A1C is 11%. That's high. I'm scared straight.
Understandably.
I decide that is it. I'm fixing this right now, today. I go on a strict keto diet. I start running 5 miles a day. I take my meds religiously.
Doing all the right things on paper.
Right. And in 8 weeks, just 2 months, I crashed that A1C from 11% down to 6%. I am basically an Olympian now. I walk into the eye doctor's office and I expect a high five.
But instead, you might actually start noticing your vision getting blurry.
Which makes no sense.
You go in for a scan, and the doctor tells you your retinopathy has actually gotten worse. You have more cotton wool spots, maybe even a completely new bleed.
That feels like a massive betrayal by your own body. I did everything right. Why would the eye rebel against healthy blood?
It feels backward, doesn't it? But you really have to think about the cellular environment in there. For years, your retinal vessels have been bathed in high-sugar blood. Biologically speaking, that blood is thick.
Thick blood.
It has high osmolarity. It's basically syrup.
Okay, so the pipes are used to pumping syrup.
Exactly. And the cells that line those pipes, the endothelial cells, they have had to adapt to that environment over a very long time.
They've changed.
They have structurally changed. They have thickened their walls. They have adjusted their internal pressure to match the syrup outside, just to keep from collapsing or bursting under the strain.
So they have settled into this new normal, a bad normal, but a stable one.
Right. They have reached a specialized, albeit very unhealthy, equilibrium. Now, you come along and you fix your diet overnight.
Because I'm highly motivated.
Right. And in 8 weeks, you turn that syrup back into water. You have drastically changed the osmotic pressure and the nutrient density of the blood flowing through those pipes. But the cells, they cannot remodel that fast.
They're still built for syrup.
Exactly. Structural changes in biology take months, sometimes years. So suddenly, you have this massive mismatch between the vessel structure and the fluid running through it.
So the pressure balance is completely thrown off.
Completely. And this rapid drop causes a few major things. First, it can cause osmotic stress. That's where fluid physically rushes into the tissues because of the concentration gradient, and that causes swelling.
Like a sponge soaking up water too fast.
Yes. But more importantly, the sudden drop in glucose can actually be interpreted by the retina as starvation.
Wait, starvation, even if the sugar is at a healthy, normal level?
Yes, because the retina is used to an absolute feast of sugar. When you cut the supply down to normal levels so quickly, it panics. It thinks it's running out of fuel.
And when the retina panics?
It screams for help. And the biological language of that scream is a protein called VEGF.
Vascular endothelial growth factor.
You got it. The retina dumps a massive load of VEGF into the eye to try and grow new blood vessels so it can get more fuel.
But VEGF is the bad guy. That is what causes the leaky, fragile vessels in the first place.
Exactly. So your rapid, highly motivated cure actually triggers the specific chemical signal that causes the blinding hemorrhages. This is the early worsening paradox.
That is just tragic, truly. So what is the takeaway for you, the listener here? Do we just stay at 11% so we don't upset the eyes?
No, absolutely not. The destination is correct. The velocity is the problem.
Ah, velocity.
The source material really emphasizes that speed matters. The goal is to lower your levels steadily. If you are at 11%, maybe you aim for 9% over the first 3 months, then 8% after that.
Soft landing.
Soft landings. You want to give your vascular system time to remodel itself alongside the changes in your blood chemistry.
It's a marathon, not a sprint. I feel like that cliche applies to everything, but here it is literally about preserving the structural integrity of your eyeballs.
Precisely. If you are planning a radical lifestyle change, or if you're starting a powerful new medication to lower your sugar, you need to talk to your ophthalmologist so they can monitor you for this specific reaction.
Now, alongside this speed trap concept, there is another major nuance regarding sugar in the sources, and that is time in range versus the A1C average.
This is the modern debate in endocrinology right now. A1C has been the king for decades, but it is fundamentally flawed.
Because it's an average. And we know averages hide lies.
They absolutely do. The source essentially asks, do daily spikes cause more damage than a steady, slightly high level?
Let's do a scenario for this one, too.
Perfect. Imagine 2 patients. Patient A has an A1C of 7.0%. They are a flat line. They wake up at a glucose level of 120. They stay around 140 all day. It's boring.
Boring is good.
Boring is great for the body. Now look at patient B. They also have an A1C of 7.0%.
So on paper, the doctor says they're doing exactly the same.
Right. But patient B wakes up at 60. They are hypoglycemic. Then they eat a massive bagel and spike to 300.
Oh, boy.
Then they inject too much insulin and crash back down to 50. Then they panic eat and shoot back up to 250. Their 90-day average comes out to 7.0%.
But their daily experience is a roller coaster.
Exactly. And the source suggests patient B is in much, much more danger of losing their sight.
Why? If the average amount of sugar hitting the eye over 3 months is the same?
Because of what we call glycemic variability. Think about the lining of your blood vessels again. When you spike to 300, you are creating massive oxidative stress. You are essentially rusting the pipes from the inside out.
Okay.
And then when you crash down to 50, you trigger inflammatory markers and stress hormones.
So it's the whiplash that does the damage.
It is the whiplash, the endothelium, the delicate inner lining of the blood vessel. It hates volatility. It takes physical, structural damage from these wild swings. The source makes a strong case that a slightly higher but stable number might actually be significantly safer for the retinal vessels than a perfect average that you achieve through total chaos.
So if you were looking at your daily glucose graph, you want a flat road. You don't want a theme park ride.
You want a very boring, very flat drive through Kansas. No hills, no valleys.
Okay, let's shift gears to the second pillar of the big three. We have covered sugar. Now we have to talk about pressure, the pressure pipe.
This is a huge one, and honestly, it is very often overlooked by patients who are so completely focused on managing their sugar.
The source material actually makes a pretty aggressive claim here. It implies that controlling your blood pressure is sometimes more important than controlling your sugar, specifically for preventing eye bleeds.
Specifically for hemorrhages, yes.
Why is that? I mean, the disease is called diabetic retinopathy. Why is blood pressure the trigger man?
Think about the physics of a pipe bursting. Just a regular pipe in your house. Or a garden hose. Why does a garden hose burst?
Well, because I kinked it and the water pressure built up behind the kink.
Right. It bursts because the internal pressure of the water exceeds the physical strength of the rubber wall.
Okay.
Now, in diabetes, the high sugar we've spent all that time talking about has done the slow, insidious work of rotting the pipe. It has weakened the walls. It has created these little microaneurysms, which are basically like weak, bulging bubbles on the side of a tire.
So the sugar sets the trap. It creates the weakness.
The sugar compromises the structure. It builds a highly fragile system over time. And hypertension, high blood pressure, that is the event.
The actual breaking point.
Yes. Hypertension is pumping fluid through those already compromised pipes at high velocity and high force.
That's the hammer.
It is the hydraulic force.
Yeah.
If you have fragile vessels in your eye, but your blood pressure is a calm 110/70, you are putting very little mechanical stress on those weak spots. They might actually hold together.
Even though they're weak.
Exactly. But if your pressure spikes to 160/100, you are physically testing the tensile strength of every single tiny weak spot in your retina.
And pop goes the weasel.
Exactly. The source describes it as pressure literally pushing the blood out of the vessel. It isn't a complex chemical reaction at that exact moment. It is simple fluid dynamics. If the pressure is too high for the wall to contain, the wall fails.
That is such a clear visual. It really drives home why taking your blood pressure at the eye doctor's office isn't just some administrative formality.
It is vital data. If you want to keep the blood inside the vessels where it belongs, you have to lower the physical pressure of the system.
Now, tangled up in this section about pressure in the sources is something about cholesterol and hard exudates. I have seen this term on medical reports. Hard exudates. It sounds like something you would scrape off a car engine block.
It does sound mechanical. These are those little yellow spots you might see if your doctor ever shows you a retinal photo.
I've seen those.
Yeah. If you look at a scan, the hemorrhages are the bright red dots, and the exudates are the yellow smears or patches.
And the source says this is directly connected to your lipid levels, to cholesterol.
Yes. Remember, when these tiny vessels in the eye leak, they aren't just leaking pure clear water. They are leaking blood plasma. And your plasma is a complex soup.
A biological soup.
Right. It contains proteins, electrolytes, and lipids, which are fats and cholesterol.
Okay, so this soup leaks out into the delicate tissue of the retina.
And the fluid part, the water, eventually gets reabsorbed by the surrounding tissue or pumped out. But the heavy stuff, the lipids, they get left behind.
Like residue.
Exactly. They precipitate out of the solution, and they form these solid, waxy deposits right there in the retinal layers.
Like when hard water evaporates on glass and leaves that white calcium salt behind?
Exactly like that. Those deposits are the hard exudates. So the connection the source makes is very straightforward. If your blood cholesterol is high, if you have high LDLs or high triglycerides, there is physically more gunk floating in your plasma.
So when a leak happens, the residue it leaves behind is thicker and more damaging.
Correct. So it is a double whammy.
The pressure pushes the fluid out, and the high cholesterol ensures that what leaks out leaves a really nasty toxic stain.
And that stain physically disrupts the neurons in the retina. If that waxy buildup happens right in the center of your vision, an area called the macula, it can permanently damage your central sight.
Wow. There is one more connection in this section that I found really interesting, and they call it the kidney
The
connection.
renal-retinal link. This is one of my absolute favorite topics because it shows just how interconnected the entire body is.
The source raises a specific question. It asks, if I have protein in my urine, does that mean my eye damage will accelerate?
And the medical answer to that is a resounding yes. They are essentially mirrored systems.
Wait, mirrored why? Are the kidneys and eyes really related?
Physiologically, down at the microscopic level, they are surprisingly similar. Both the kidneys and the retina rely on vast networks of tiny, highly specialized capillaries to filter and manage fluid. And they both have a very specific microscopic structure called a basement membrane that acts as the primary filter.
So they are basically made of the exact same fabric,
They are built from the exact same blueprint. And because of that, they tend to get damaged at the exact same rate by the exact same systemic insults.
meaning the sugar and the pressure.
Exactly.
So they fail in tandem.
Usually, yes. The source points out that finding protein in the urine, which is called nephropathy, is a massive warning sign for the eyes. Think of it as the check engine light blinking on your dashboard.
The early warning system.
Right. If the microscopic filters in your kidneys are damaged enough to start letting large protein molecules leak out into your urine, it is highly probable, almost guaranteed really, that the microscopic filters in your eyes are also damaged enough to let fluid leak out into your retina.
That is a sobering thought, but it is really actionable information for the listener. Because sometimes you might not notice a change in your vision yet. The eye might be compensating.
But the routine urine test at your primary care doctor picks it up long before your vision blurs.
Wow.
So if your nephrologist or your general doctor says, hey, your kidney numbers are slipping a bit, you shouldn't just think about dialysis down the road. You should immediately think, I need to call my retina specialist today.
Because it's all one connected plumbing system.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered the sugar speed trap, and we've got the pressure pipe and the hard exudates. Now, let's get into the stuff that we do every single day. Part 3, lifestyle landmines.
This is where the rubber really meets the road. These are the choices you make on a random Tuesday afternoon.
And honestly, this is where I think the most surprising, actionable info is. Let's talk about exercise.
Okay.
Usually, the advice from doctors is totally generic. Go exercise, it lowers your blood sugar, it's great for you. And sure, that's true generally.
It is.
But the source has a very specific, bright red warning label for people with proliferative diabetic retinopathy, or PDR.
This is a really critical distinction to make. We aren't talking about everyone with diabetes here. We are talking about people with proliferative DR, meaning they already have those new, abnormal, extremely fragile blood vessels actively growing inside their retina.
Right. If you have those fragile vessels, the source essentially says you have to be very careful how you lift weights.
It puts a very strong warning on heavy lifting, and it specifically calls out something called the Valsalva maneuver.
The Valsalva maneuver. I have to admit, that sounds like a 19th century ballroom dance move, but I am guessing it is not.
Definitely not a dance,
Yeah.
but you have done it.
Oh,
Literally everyone has done it.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Picture this. You are helping a friend move a really heavy couch or a fridge. You bend down, you grab the bottom, you take a massive breath of air, you trap it in your chest by closing your airway, and you grunt as you heave it up.
Oh, the grunt and push. Yes.
That exact moment where you are physically straining your muscles against a closed airway, that is the Valsalva maneuver.
Okay, I can literally feel the pressure building up in my head just thinking about doing that. My face goes bright red.
Right. Your face goes red. And why does that happen? Because you are massively spiking the pressure inside your chest cavity, the intrathoracic pressure.
Okay.
When you do that, you are physically blocking the blood from draining back out of your head. The veins in your neck, the jugulars, they can't drain the blood back down into the chest because the pressure down there is just too high to overcome.
So the blood just backs up.
It backs up aggressively.
Yeah.
A high-pressure wave shoots right back up the jugular vein. It bypasses the normal safety valves, and it hammers directly into the delicate venous capillary beds inside your eye.
Whoa. So holding my breath while I try to hit a personal record on the bench press is essentially hydraulically spiking the pressure inside my eyeballs.
Significantly. And going right back to our earlier point about PDR,
Mm-hmm.
if you have those new proliferative vessels, Remember, they are like wet tissue paper. They have almost zero structural integrity.
So they can't handle that wave.
Not at all. That sudden spike in venous pressure from lifting heavy can cause them to burst instantly.
Or premacular hemorrhage.
We see it happen in the clinic. A patient feels great, the sugar is controlled, they go to the gym to get healthy, they hit a heavy squat, they hold their breath, and suddenly they see a literal curtain of dark red blood falling over their field of vision.
That is utterly terrifying. And it's the irony again, right? You are in the gym trying to get healthy, but the actual physical mechanics of how you exercise hurt you.
Exactly.
So what is the fix here for the listener? Does this mean if you have PDR, you just can't lift weights ever again?
No, you absolutely should still lift weights. Maintaining muscle mass is crucial for long-term glucose control. You just have to change your technique. The Source offers a very simple practical tip. Exhale when you lift.
Just breathe out. That's it.
If you are actively breathing out, like physically blowing air out through your mouth during the hardest part of the lift, it is physically impossible to perform the Valsalva maneuver. You cannot build up that dangerous chest pressure if the valve is open.
So if I am pushing the bar up off my chest, I should be making a loud sound.
Exactly. Make the sound. Do not hold your breath. Or, as the Source also suggests, just stick to lighter weights and do higher reps. Don't go for your 1-rep absolute max. If you have unstable, fragile eyes, it is just not worth the risk.
That makes total sense. And the text also mentions head-down yoga poses.
It's the exact same fundamental principle, just a different mechanism. Gravity.
Gravity.
Yeah. If you are doing a headstand or holding a long downward dog pose, you are significantly increasing the hydrostatic pressure in your head and in your eyes simply by virtue of gravity pulling the blood down there.
Right, because all the blood rushes to your head.
Exactly. Again, if your retinal vessels are healthy and strong, it's totally fine. But if they are fragile and leaky, it is unnecessary mechanical risk.
So keep your head above your heart and keep breathing while you lift. Seems like a pretty good rule for life in general, actually.
It really is a solid rule.
Okay, let's move from the gym straight into the bedroom. Sleep.
The sleep factor. This is, in my professional opinion, arguably the most underdiagnosed and undertreated risk factor in all of diabetic eye care.
Wow. The Source gets very specific about sleep apnea here. It asks the question, does snoring actually matter for your eyes?
It matters immensely.
Yeah.
And I don't mean just a little occasional snore. I am talking about obstructive sleep apnea, where you physically stop breathing for periods of time during the night.
Walk us through the physiological why here. How does my throat closing up while I sleep actually affect the retina in my eye?
Think about what happens when you stop breathing. Your oxygen intake stops, so your blood oxygen levels drop. You become hypoxic.
Help.
Now, the retina is one of the most metabolically active tissues in the entire human body. It consumes oxygen voraciously. It burns fuel like a jet engine constantly.
This is very high maintenance.
Extremely. Now, here's the kicker. At night, in the dark, the retina is actually working harder than it does during the day in the light.
Wait, really? What?
The photoreceptors, the rods and cones, actually consume more oxygen in the dark resting state to maintain their chemical gradients. So their oxygen demand goes up significantly at night.
Okay, I did not know that.
So precisely at the moment when the eye needs the maximum amount of oxygen, the sleep apnea cuts the supply line.
You are literally choking the engine while it is running at the absolute red line.
Exactly. You are starving it. And this oxygen starvation acts as a massive biological stress signal. The cells in the retina sense this severe hypoxia, and they trigger a specific survival pathway. It's called the HIF-1 alpha pathway.
And what does that do?
It turns on the mass production of VEGF.
There is that acronym again. VEGF, the vessel grower we talked about earlier.
The vessel grower, and more importantly, the vessel leaker. So while you are sleeping, supposedly resting, your suffocating retina is actively pumping out the exact chemical that destroys your vision. You are basically running a highly efficient VEGF factory all night long.
That is incredible and terrifying to think about.
And crucially, the Source notes that this makes standard eye treatments incredibly difficult. It says untreated sleep apnea makes swelling, the macular edema, much harder for eye injections to actually fix.
Well, yeah, that makes perfect sense now that you explain the mechanism. You go to the eye doctor, you get an anti-VEGF injection to soak up the bad protein.
Right.
But then you go home, fall asleep, and spend 8 hours pumping a fresh batch of VEGF right back into the eye because you aren't breathing properly.
You are bailing out a sinking boat while actively drilling new holes in the bottom.
That explains perfectly why some people just don't seem to respond to the eye shots. They go back month after month, and the fluid is still there.
It is very often the missing piece of the puzzle. If you have resistant fluid that just won't go away, and your partner complains that you snore like a freight train, getting a sleep study done might actually be way more effective than just increasing the dose of your eye medication.
Save your vision, save your marriage. Get a CPAP machine.
Highly recommended all around.
Okay, let's hit the common vices real quick. Smoking and alcohol, we all know they're bad for you. Smoking kills, we get it.
Yeah.
But does it do anything specific to the mechanics of the eye, or is it just generally bad for your overall health?
It does something very specific. The mechanical issue here is vasoconstriction. Nicotine acts directly on the muscular walls of your blood vessels and causes them to clamp down tight, to physically restrict.
So we have got vessels that are already heavily damaged by years of sugar, and now we are chemically clamping them shut.
Exactly. Remember, with diabetic retinopathy, we're already incredibly worried about ischemia, which is a lack of adequate blood flow. We're worried about those tiny capillaries dying off and starving the tissue.
Right.
Smoking actively reduces the diameter of whatever functional vessels you have left. You're purposefully reducing blood flow to a tissue that is already desperately struggling for oxygen. It's essentially strangling the eye tissue.
So it isn't just a vague toxins argument. It is a direct mechanical restriction of fuel and oxygen.
Correct. Yeah. It vastly accelerates the permanent closure of those capillaries. And once those capillaries close, they do not open back up. That specific part of the retina dies.
That is a one-way street we definitely do not want to go down.
No.
What about supplements? I feel like every single time I open a magazine or watch TV, there is an ad for vision vitamins. The source specifically mentions something called Air S2.
Ah, yes. This is a very common point of confusion for patients. Naturally, patients want to be proactive. They want to take control, so they ask, what pill can I take? Aridase 2 is a very specific, heavily researched formula of vitamins. It's got zinc, copper, lutein, zeaxanthin.
But do they actually work for diabetic retinopathy?
The source makes a point to clarify this exact issue. These vitamins were studied and proven to be effective specifically for macular degeneration, or AMD,
Which is a completely different disease.
an entirely different biological mechanism. AMD is largely about the accumulation of waste products and oxidative stress in a different layer of the eye, the RPE layer. Diabetic retinopathy, as we have been discussing, is fundamentally a vascular disease. It's about the pipes. The source explicitly notes that there is currently no strong, peer-reviewed evidence showing that taking Arid ST's vitamins helps prevent or treat diabetic eye disease.
So it is not the magic shield people hope it is.
Taking it probably won't hurt you, unless perhaps you are a smoker, in which case the beta-carotene in the original AREDS 1 formula was actually shown to be a lung cancer risk.
Oh, wow.
But generally, no, don't bank on it, saving your vision from diabetes.
Save your money for the gym membership or the copay for the CPAP machine.
That would definitely be a much better investment for your long-term eye health, yes.
All right, we are heading into the final stress of the deep dive here. Part 4, Modern Medicine and Technology, the New Frontier. And we absolutely have to talk about the elephant in the room, or rather the injection in the room.
We certainly do. The GLP-1 agonists.
Ozempic, Mounjaro, Wegovy. These drugs are an absolute cultural phenomenon right now. Everyone is talking about them. But the source has a very specific section titled the Ozempic question.
And it connects right back to the very first thing we talked about today, the speed trap.
So let's be crystal clear for the listener. Is the drug itself toxic to the eye? Is the Ozempic molecule actively attacking the retina?
No. The medication itself is not necessarily toxic to the eye tissues. The risk doesn't come from the drug's chemistry. It comes from the drug's incredible efficacy.
It just works too well.
In a sense, yes. These medications are incredibly powerful metabolic tools. They can drop a patient's A1C levels very effectively and very, very quickly. We see patients dropping significant amounts of weight and drastically lowering their glucose numbers in just a matter of weeks.
And as we learned back in part 1,
Speed kills.
Yeah.
If you drop your A1C from 11% down to 6% in 2 months, because Ozempic is doing exactly what it was designed to do, you are heavily triggering that early worsening phenomenon. The eye rebels against the rapid environmental change.
so if someone is listening right now and they are about to start one of these medications, what is the proper protocol? Do they just avoid the drug entirely?
No, absolutely not, because the long-term systemic benefits of these drugs for the heart and the kidneys are undeniable and life-saving. The expert advice outlined in the source is very clear. patients should have a comprehensive dilated eye exam before they start taking these medications.
To establish a baseline.
Exactly. You need to know if you have any active, undiagnosed retinopathy right now before the chemistry changes.
Because if you do,
If you do, your prescribing doctor and your eye doctor need to know. They might say, great, take the Ozempic, but I need to see you in the eye clinic every 6 weeks for the first few months instead of every year. Or they might even want to proactively treat the existing retinopathy with a laser or injections before you crash your sugar, just to stabilize those fragile vessels first.
it is all about the sequencing. You fix the vessel stability first, and then you fix the blood sugar.
Precisely. Do not fly blind here. If you start Ozempic and you don't see an eye doctor for a year, you might wake up with a surprise vitreous hemorrhage that could easily have been managed or prevented.
That is huge. And finally, let's talk about some consumer tech. CGMs, continuous glucose monitors.
these.
Those little white sensors people wear on the back of their arms, I see them literally everywhere now at the grocery store.
They are an absolute game changer for daily disease management.
The source suggests that patients can actually use them to predict their vision changes. How does that practically work?
Well, the lens of the eye, which is the clear part behind the pupil that focuses light, is actually very sensitive to sugar levels. When your blood sugar is high, the lens actively absorbs that excess glucose.
Okay.
And basic biology tells us that water follows sugar through osmosis. So as the lens absorbs sugar, it also absorbs water. And it swells up.
It physically changes its shape.
It physically changes shape. It becomes rounder and thicker. And when the shape of the lens changes, your optical prescription changes.
That makes total sense.
This is exactly why people with uncontrolled high blood sugar often get sudden, blurry distance vision.
So the source suggests you can use your continuous monitor to spot these specific patterns.
Yes. If you wake up and your vision is blurry, don't just immediately panic and think you are going blind. Check the CGM history on your phone. Do you spike to 250 overnight?
If you see that correlation, you know the blur is just metabolic.
Exactly. It's temporary.
You can start to correlate your daily data. You can say, oh, I was at 300 at 3 a.m. That is exactly why I can't read the street signs on my drive to work today.
Exactly. It empowers you. Instead of feeling like your eyes are just failing randomly and unpredictably, you realize it is just a mechanical symptom of the current sugar level. And as the sugar slowly comes back down, the lens will deswell, and your normal crisp vision will return.
That is incredibly empowering. One last medical tech point the source raises, and this felt like a real curveball to me: anemia.
It is a bit of a curveball, but it is deeply important for accurate diagnostics.
The source notes that being iron deficient, being anemic, can actually make your retinopathy look significantly worse on a retinal scan than it actually is. Why is that?
Think about what anemia actually is fundamentally. You have fewer red blood cells available to carry oxygen through your body. Your blood is essentially thin in terms of its oxygen-carrying capacity.
Right.
If you are severely anemic, your retina is starving for oxygen, even if your blood vessels are technically wide open and flowing fine. This systemic hypoxia can trigger those cotton wool spots we mentioned, which are signs of nerve cell death or other visual signs of ischemia.
So the eye doctor looks at the scan, sees a starving, damaged retina, and they naturally assume it is the diabetes blocking the blood flow.
But it might just be that the blood flowing through those open pipes is empty. It's not carrying the payload.
That is a massive distinction.
It really is. The source suggests that fixing the underlying anemia, taking iron supplements, fixing the diet, can sometimes dramatically improve the visual appearance of the retina simply because the normal oxygen supply is finally restored.
It is just another perfect example of the engine affecting the headlights.
Absolutely.
Which brings us really nicely to the community insight section of our notes today. The source references a draft Facebook post regarding something they call vision triggers.
Yeah. It asks the community to really observe themselves.
Yeah.
It asks, have you noticed your vision gets blurrier when your blood pressure is high, or after a really heavy, salty meal, or when you are super stressed out at work?
It encourages active participation in your own health. Don't just be a passive passenger. Notice the links between your daily body states and your sight.
Because you are the only one living inside your body 24/7. You will notice subtle patterns and triggers that the doctor will completely miss in a quick 15-minute exam.
So let's bring this all home. We have covered a truly massive amount of ground today on this deep dive. We have talked about the big three: sugar, pressure, and sight. We have talked about the dangers of the speed trap, the mechanics of the pressure pipe, and the physiological risks of the Valsalva maneuver.
We have. It is a lot of complex information to digest.
If you had to distill all of this down into a single core philosophy for the listener, what is it?
The core philosophy is that the eye does not exist in a vacuum. You simply cannot treat the eye in isolation and expect long-term success. You have to treat the underlying engine so the specific eye treatments don't constantly fail.
Hmm.
You have to respect the speed of change to avoid the speed trap.
Right.
You have to respect the mechanics of your body by managing the pressure pipe and remembering to breathe through the heavy lifting. And you really have to respect the nighttime environment, ensuring your retina isn't suffocating while you sleep.
It is about treating the whole complex human, not just focusing on the eyeball.
Exactly. The ophthalmologist can weld the leaky pipe shut with a laser, but you are the one controlling the baseline pressure and the quality of the fluid running through those pipes every single day. It is a true partnership.
And I absolutely love the final thought the source material leaves us with today. It plays on that very old saying, the eyes are the window to the soul.
But in this specific medical context, they are actually the dashboard for the kidneys and the heart.
That really stuck with me. Because if the pipes are leaking in your eyes, which is the one place you can actually see them leaking, where else in your body are they leaking that you can't see?
It's a highly provocative thought. We can easily look at the retinal vessels with a bright light. We cannot easily see the microscopic vessels deep inside your brain or your heart or your kidneys without very invasive tests. So if you see active hemorrhages in your eye, you should safely assume that the exact same microvascular stress and damage is happening to your other vital organs at that exact moment.
The eye is the early warning system.
It is. It is the canary in the coal mine. Listen to it. If your vision is fluctuating, if you are having bleeds, don't just treat the eye and move on. Ask yourself, what is my engine trying to tell me right now?
So to you, the listener, take a really good look at your dashboard. Check your speed. Are you dropping those A1C numbers a little too fast? Check your pressure. And pay very close attention to those daily triggers.
And just remember, stability is key. Boring is good.
Be boring, be stable, and keep those engines running smooth. Thank you for diving deep with us today.
Take